I'll bring up our next guest here, NrdGrl007. How's it going?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me, Maddie.
Yeah, I'm excited for your talk, and so we'll let you take over.
Okay, awesome. All right. All right, so, whoops. Hang on, sorry, 1 second. All right, I'm calling myself from the future on my 555 stake, and the gas price is too high, so I may come out a bit pixelated. When I was a college student, I did my fieldwork in the Middle East, documenting rogue implementations of Sharia law. I embarked on this particular endeavor for a few reasons. One, it was easy to get funding for research pertaining to Islamic practices and people. Two, it challenged my Western conceptual framework of reality. And three, I wanted to understand what societal conditions would need to be met for a group of people to justify violent punishment, and in some cases, even death, for those who violated their collective sense of order. The time that I spent in Iran and in the UAE informed my understanding of a people whose epistemology was so different from the one with which I was accustomed that there's no way I could have learned what I did without actually living among the people who practiced it. As my time in the Middle East drew to a close and rumors spread that I'd soon be leaving, numerous people came up to me and said, "When you go back to America, please tell them Iranian government is bad, but Iranian people are good." I responded, same. Those words and the experiences I had abroad stayed with me, and they shaped everything that's come since. Back in the US, I fought with my chair and the committee members of my board incessantly about the direction my dissertation was taking. Eventually, I dropped out of the PhD program in favor of pursuing a less stressful career path far away from academia. I started doing retail arbitrage. A few years went by, and my past caught up with me in a new form: cryptocurrency. A guy who I was dating would not shut up about crypto, and more specifically about Ethereum. Not only did he believe this investment would make him rich in a very short time span, but he also fervently believed that the technology these cryptocurrencies was built on would change the world. His passion and conviction were contagious. I began to learn about the bigger picture surrounding the whole cryptocurrency movement, and it tied to a lot of the work I had done earlier in my academic career. After a few months of investigating, I came to the conclusion that I should buy some Ethereum too. So I thought that staking would be implemented later that year, in 2017, and Ethereum could serve not only as passive income for me, but also potentially as a realistic solution for the UBI problem that humanity faces. I invested my life savings, which wasn't much, but it was everything I had. I convinced my mom, her boyfriend, my sister, her husband, my grandma, every one of my friends who would listen, my Botox doctor, and complete strangers to buy varying amounts of cryptocurrency. And then I revisited some of my old colleagues from the university to see what they thought about this socio-political economic movement that was taking people from rags to riches and sometimes back again in a really short time. Their responses were varied. Many of them had no interest in anything I was talking about since I'd abandoned academia. Many thought I had become involved in some kind of strange cult, but there was one who always understood that I saw things differently and encouraged me to press on no matter what he or anyone else thought. Dr. Abdullahi Ghalib is a Sudanese revolutionary and freedom fighter turned journalist and sociologist. I owe him an immense debt of gratitude because it was through conversing with him about the groups I saw forming in cryptocurrency that I was able to formulate my original research questions. From afar at first, I watched as members of different crypto tribes formed their collective identities. Bitcoiners, Maxis, Ethereans, XRP Army, and the list goes on and on. Each group had unique characteristics that carried on to individual members, at least to some degree. The more isolated and excluded from the whole each tribe was, the more hostile and maximalish were its individual members. In early 2019, I began contributing to the cryptosphere professionally when I took a freelance journalist position with a popular crypto news media outlet. Now, at that time, the biggest story in cryptocurrency was the most recent hard fork of Bitcoin Cash, BSV. I noticed that the media outlet I was writing for, along with every other crypto media outlet, was bashing the newly minted coin primarily for one reason. They hated its founder. I had to talk to him and to the whole community about the trends I'd been noticing and see what they thought about how it applied to their tribe. I proposed the idea that I interview Wright to my editors, and they agreed, and Wright also agreed. So it was during the research for this piece that I first came across Richard Hart, but more on that later. So Craig Wright and I exchanged a few emails, and then I flew to Canada to meet him and to attend the CoinGeek conference there and see with my own eyes what was going on in this crypto cult community. Before I left, my editors, Cypherpunk and Bitcoin core developer Jameson Lopp, and a number of other big-name crypto celebs encouraged me not to go. They told me I shouldn't give the time of day or media attention to that scammer, and if I did go, definitely not to drink the Kool-Aid. Of course, all of their discouragement only made me want to go more. So after meeting the BSV tribe, I went to another conference in town where I met Ken Bozak. When I told him where I'd just been, he had the sourest look on his face. And then I outlined my anthropological interest in cryptocurrency and tribalism. So I think that may be the reason why, for this past year, he's tolerated my sometimes not so subtle references to HEX and is now a new member of the Hexican community who we're so glad to have on board. Anyway, the next day at the Crypto Chicks conference, I had a completely different experience than the day prior. People were welcoming and I didn't feel like an outsider. And on that day, I realized that the people at the BSV conference were probably nicer to me than people would have been to them at Crypto Chicks. And so, not realizing who she was, I told Vitalik's mom. Iranian government is bad. Iranian people are good. Anyway, it was this draw to study whichever tribes I thought were most marginalized that first led to my interest in HEX. So I asked Richard Hart to come talk to me about his experience with crypto tribalism, both as a former maximalist and now as a maximalist's target. And he ignored me. So I kind of moved on to something else. So I would like to thank my friends Amaris Brown and RG3 for bringing me back into HEX to continue my research. And when I returned, I started looking for one thing. Why were people calling HEX a scam? And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But no matter what I did, I couldn't find a good reason that held up under critical scrutiny. And still I didn't own any because I didn't want my judgment to be compromised by the token's rapidly rising value. I began to see hexagons everywhere. I dreamt of HEX. Like Ethereum before it, I woke up in the night knowing I should buy some. But unlike Ethereum, this time I was burdened by the inherited tribalism I'd picked up while studying it, and by the fear that if I went further with my public support of HEX, I would alienate much of the following I'd worked so hard to build. Over time, of course, things changed. Eventually, Richard agreed to an interview. I also ended up acquiring some HEX for a TikTok I made in which I lauded the coin's audits. It wasn't easy to overcome those hurdles of being shunned for liking a token that the vast majority disliked without ever having done their own research. All communities in which there are elements of maximalism dislike discussions about tribalism. After all, groups that are marginalized need to form collectives to give themselves the strength to continue. Banding together makes people stronger. So it should come as no surprise that there are elements of maximalism within the HEX community. Sometimes Hexicans get mad at me because I talk about tribalism too much, in their opinion. But what those who find my interest in this crypto-sociological phenomenon don't understand is that the reason I think tribalism is a problem in crypto isn't because I want to disparage collectivism. It's because when groups close themselves to the whole, we all miss out. In this case, anti-HEX sentiments cost a lot of people a lot of money, and they cost a lot of people friends and business relationships as well. I remarked earlier about the numerous times I feared Ken Bozak would block me, and while he never pushed that button, many others did. That's really a shame, because not only does it end sometimes long-standing relationships, it also closes the door for collaboration between groups. And collaboration is something that I think is sorely lacking, not only in cryptocurrency, but in the world at large. For me personally, it's a problem because when doors close, that limits the scope of my research. And while some may think it's silly, it means something to me. And I need your continued support to further advance it. Today, I'm a proud Hexican, a cutthroat, and a member of the 5555 Club, but I never forget. Iranian government is bad. Iranian people are good. Those who reiterated this statement were clearly aware of the growing animosity between our nations, and they wanted American people to know that their beef was with the government, not the people of Iran. That's important because what it means is that war hurts people, not institutions. And while the statement isn't a perfect correlation for HEX and Hexicans, I hope you can see where I'm going with it. Make love, not war. Richard Hart is HEX's founder's name. You are all great. Thanks for your time. I'm Nicole Grinstead, aka NrdGrl007, no vowels. And thanks for coming to my HEX talk. That's it. I'm done.
Good job. Everybody loved it in the comments. They're all commenting. You got Ken in the comments as well, even. And now I know we have another 8 minutes with you. What would you like to discuss?
Okay, sorry. So I guess I didn't write a long enough presentation. No, I guess I don't know. Is there anything? Does anybody with their questions or anything? I could take some questions, or if you have questions, I don't know.
Sure. So, what are some of the other things you've learned through your research that make HEX stand out as something special?
Okay, well, so HEX stood out as something special because it was really like the active target of crypto tribalism, and it was really odd because originally I think that I thought it's a scam, right? I mean, everybody is saying it's a scam, it must be a scam. But the more that I looked, the more that I couldn't make sense of people's reasoning for disliking the project. I mean, I could understand not wanting to put 100% of your net worth into it. I could understand even saying, hey, I don't want to put anything into it, but like, good luck. But the way that people were acting was so, I don't know, disproportionate to what seemed appropriate, especially because it wasn't like HEX was trying to take the name Bitcoin, right? Which has been a huge issue within the crypto community. Like previous instances of tribalism have a lot of them been because someone or some group was claiming that they were the true Bitcoin. With HEX, that wasn't the case at all. So it didn't make sense, and it kind of just felt like people were just outraged about the existence of a new coin just for the sake of being outraged, and like it sparked this, I don't know, understanding that I applied, outside of cryptocurrency, outside of HEX, and I don't know, I think I started to see a lot of things differently.
And that's totally true. I think now another question I have for you is so at some point you did get the attention of Richard Hart and get a chance to talk to him maybe more than once. I've seen you guys stream together. Can you say more about how accessible he is and what you've learned from him?
Sure. Yeah. So Richard is super accessible. He's always on Telegram, even if even if he's not like responding on Twitter or something. If you send him a message on Telegram, he responds right away. I think that like even though he is, I don't what how to. I guess people say that he's like an egomaniac or something, but like I've worked in cryptocurrency for a while. I've worked with several different leaders, and anybody who's been in Richard's position is like that. So it's not like Richard is worse than anyone else, except for that, and he's more accessible. I would say that he's a huge asset to the HEX community. Just the amount of time that he spends streaming and onboarding new people and talking to people on Twitter and on Telegram. I've never really seen a founder go that far above and beyond, especially not one whose product is doing as well as it is. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, Richard's always a pleasure to talk with. I like him.
Are you gonna rebrand, or are you gonna stick with what you've already got?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with what I've got. So I know he wanted me to change and either put the vowels back in my name. or change my name altogether. But I was like, I did Nerd Girl with no vowels because it's like a nerd thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, you know, I guess maybe I could be bigger or something, but I feel like it would be a betrayal. So for now, I have no intention of rebranding, but that could change, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure many people will follow you no matter what you call yourself, and um, I know that you are in multiple tribes, and that can't be easy for you. But it sounds like that fits with kind of the story that you shared today, your all your experience in your life, and so that's a really cool thing for you to be kind of in this unique research position.
Well, I never want to be so hyper focused in one thing that like I'm not open to something else. You know, if I was so hyper focused in Bitcoin when hexagons came to talk to me, then I never would have, I don't know, been open to learning about the project in the way that I did, and I wouldn't be here today. And it's not because I think that something better than Hex is going to come along. That's not the case at all. It's because I think that like doors and lines of communication belong open.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
I
and
see a question actually from Funding Jim. Ask me if I think thawing out maxis are the best use of time and resources, or if informing no coiners is a better investment by hexagons. Yeah, no coiners, definitely a better investment by far, better time investment by far, in my opinion. I also think that maxis are kind of starting to come around. Yeah, what do you think?
yeah, I think well, it's hard for me to tell really because as you kind of pointed out, we're all kind of in echo chambers with my time, I'm most interested in learning about the emergent properties of HEX to be able to contribute to mental health and programming mental health into money. I'm interested in creating HEX content and onboarding my loved ones into HEX. And so I really don't catch a lot of other things that go on in the world or in other cryptos. But uh, you know, when they get here, I'm sure like you know we'll see more and more people who have been in other cryptos or who are coming into crypto for the first time.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Sorry, my presentation was a little bit short. I think I didn't realize that it had to be exactly 20 minutes.
Oh, you're fine. No worries. Yeah, and I know we've all enjoyed your talk, and it was well prepared and succinct, and I hadn't heard your backstory before, and so that's
Okay,
really
thanks,
great
guys.
to hear.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you around during the social and the
Yep,
rest of the conference,
yep, I'll be
and
around.
thanks again for presenting.
Bye, guys.